The collapse of David's kingdom in 2 Samuel chapters 13 through 15 represents the mechanical failure of a judicial vacuum inside his own court. This collapse constitutes the second installment of David's fourfold divine penalty. Following his actions with Bathsheba and Uriah, the prophet Nathan decreed that the sword would never depart from the royal house. This divine judgment unfolds through the natural mechanics of human character, manipulation, and administrative failure. When personal moral failures lead a monarch to suspend the law, it creates an administrative vacuum. Shrewd manipulation and political opportunism inevitably fill the void left by a king who stops dispensing justice. 2 Samuel builds a precise causal model of this process, demonstrating exactly how a throne is lost from the inside out. The causal chain begins in 2 Samuel 13. Amnon, David's eldest son, develops a physical obsession with his half-sister Tamar and engineers a situation to assault her. The biblical narrator frames this assault as a symptom of a systemic national regression, signaling the shift through highly specific vocabulary. This diagram compares the text of 2 Samuel 13 with the account of the Levite's concubine at Gibeah in Judges 19, the event that precipitated a brutal civil war in the era before the monarchy. Both crimes are explicitly categorized using the Hebrew word nivalah, a term designating a disgraceful or uniquely wicked thing. Tamar uses the exact structural defense, "No, my brother, don't do this wicked thing," as the Ephraimite host who pleaded for mercy in Judges 19. Both accounts also use the identical Hebrew verb inah, meaning to abuse or humiliate, to describe the physical assaults. Finally, in both narratives, the aggressors proceed by physical force, explicitly refusing to listen to these warnings. By embedding these lexical links, the narrator subtitles the Tamar tragedy, Gibeah Revisited. The Davidic court has collapsed into the pre-monarchic moral anarchy of the Judges period. David retains the mechanical power to issue orders while lacking situational awareness of his own palace. This flowchart tracks David's royal authority through the Hebrew verb shalach, meaning to send. It serves as the primary textual indicator of the king's power to command. In his earlier reign, David's command vectors hit their targets perfectly. Now his commands are intercepted and misdirected by the people around him. David is manipulated into using his authority against his own daughter. Influenced by a fabricated illness, David sends Tamar directly to her demise in Amnon's bedroom. David later uses that same authority to send Amnon to his own murder at Absalom's sheep-shearing festival. David's primary administrative failure occurs when he learns of Tamar's rape. Although the text records his fury, he takes zero legal action against Amnon. Mechanical authority is useless without objective justice. David's emotional reaction, unmatched by legal execution, creates the specific vacuum Absalom will exploit. With the law suspended, the royal court operates on a logic of shrewdness entirely divorced from the fear of the Lord. This matrix maps the advisors who wield this corrupted wisdom: David's nephew Jonadab, his commander Joab, and the wise woman of Tekoa. They operate in closed loops that bypass objective justice. Jonadab uses this shrewdness to bypass the moral guardrails of the court, devising the plan that allows Amnon to trap Tamar. After Absalom murders Amnon and flees, Joab employs the same deceptive framework. He stages the wise woman of Tekoa to manipulate David into bringing Absalom back home. The woman presents a fabricated story about her murderous son to force David to prioritize family survival over the law. Joab embeds a specific philosophy in her speech: death is inevitable, so ignore the legal penalty for murder and restore the banished. This worldview justifies Joab's own unpunished murders by prioritizing political cohesion over the requirements of justice. The subversion of true wisdom transforms the legal system. It becomes a protective shield for the guilty. The chronological progression of the text demonstrates the scale of David's administrative neglect. This timeline tracks the accumulation of David's judicial debt. With every passing year, the weight of his inaction compounds. Following 2 full years of David's silence regarding Tamar, Absalom forces the issue by murdering Amnon. During Absalom's 3-year exile in Geshur, David refuses to take official legal action despite his longing for his son. Absalom then lives in Jerusalem for 2 more years, fully alienated and forbidden to see the king's face. This decade in administrative limbo leads Absalom to take radical action, setting Joab's field on fire to extort a meeting with the king. David responds to this extortion by fully reinstating Absalom with a kiss, requiring no legal reckoning or trial for his crimes. This decade of compounding passivity signals to the kingdom that David's justice system is broken and ripe for replacement. Following his reinstatement, Absalom initiates a 4-year political strategy to dismantle his father's authority. This photograph shows the stepped stone pathways and ruins of ancient Jerusalem, representing the physical approach citizens took to reach the seat of judgment at the city gate. Absalom positions himself on this road early every morning to intercept Israelites seeking the king's rulings. This map models Absalom's interception of justice. He absorbs the needs of the tribes before they ever reach the throne room. He acknowledges the validity of their claims, while explicitly stating that the king has provided no representative to hear them. Absalom weaponizes David's passivity by promising that if appointed judge, he would personally ensure that everyone receives the justice they have been denied. He pairs this with physical political theater, reaching out to embrace and kiss the Israelites who try to bow before him. Using a fabricated religious vow, Absalom eventually travels to Hebron, the site of David's initial crowning, to officially launch his rebellion. Absalom bypassed the physical defenses of Jerusalem entirely to target the judicial vacuum David left behind. A throne requires active, objective justice to survive. When a royal court suspends the law, rebellion becomes the logical and inevitable outcome.